Hello everyone, this is GNB Productions, and today we are finally back on schedule for our Sonic the Hedgehog Marathon Retrospective, whatever the freak you want to call this little series on the channel. In the last part of this series, I looked at the classic Sonic games 1 through 3, as well as CD, Knuckles Chaotix, and half of the Advanced series. This series won't only just be me looking at the main series Sonic games, it'll also be me looking at other games that I see as, personally canon to the main timeline. And obviously, I haven't, been alive long enough to play all of these games. So, to suffice for that, since this franchise is pretty story-driven, I figured I might as well just review the stories of the games that I haven't played. So, the games that you see in the thumbnail are not the only ones that I'll be looking into for this specific part. With that said, let's hurry up and rush into Sonic's grand adventure, Sonic Adventure. Okay, so this game, as well as its sequel, have been getting a lot of flack in recent years. When the Sega Dreamcast landed in 1998, this was the game that led its marketing. And it was met with high praise until a few years ago when some people decided to trash on it out of nowhere for some reason or another. I honestly don't freaking know. I don't really feel the need to go on a long spiel on like how these games are misunderstood and like they're the diamond in the rough or whatever, because I can just tell you right here and now, these are good games. Like, these are good games. Like, these are good games. I don't know why the hate for this game started or why it somewhat continues today, but do you want to know how I know these are good games? I clearly wasn't even conceived when these games came out. And I mostly grew up on games that look like this, and even recently this. And I can't stop playing a game that looks like this. You can tell that these games have at least stood the test of time. At least to me personally. Not that they're perfect by any means, but if a 2000s kid like me can enjoy something that was pretty much way before my time, there has to be at least some substance to them. Now, before I get into anything, you need to know the layout of this game is a little different for this game in particular. This game has six playable characters, with each having a severely different playstyle and storyline that intertwine with one another. That being Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, and newcomers Big the Cat, and E1OT Gamma. So, we have a lot to uncover, so let's hurry up and get into it. First off, the intro is friggin' fantastic. The CG still holds up pretty well, and Crush 40's Open Your Heart playing in the background. This is friggin' amazing. This intro alone should get you ready for what's to come. This is a new step in Sonic's journey, and it really shows. We've gone from dealing with fat doctors and robots, dealing with fat doctors who have control over literal gods. I feel like you need a good story in a game, because it could be a key motivator for the player. If the story is shite and the gameplay is great, it'll be a fun time, but if you have a great story along with great gameplay like Spider-Man PS4 or more relevant, Sonic 3K, then you're going to have an amazing experience. And the adventure games have that in spades. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm not going to talk about the redesigns because I briefly touched on them in the last part of this marathon, so let's move on. We'll start off with Sonic's story. Sonic is enjoying himself while in the city of Station Square until he runs into this water being known as Chaos. He defeats it for now, while Eggbotnik, and yes, I'm still calling him Eggbotnik, gives a cryptic warning about our so-called god of destruction. The next day, Sonic meets up with Tails, who crashed into the tornado nearby. We go to the Mystic Ruins, where they find Eggbotnik, who demands the 7 Chaos Emeralds to power up an ancient being known as Chaos. When he has all 7, he will destroy Station Square, and on its ruins he will build Robotnik Land. And yeah, you get the whole thing. And spoiler alert, that won't come into play until later down the line. Apparently Knuckles is having a bit of a problem with this Chaos being, considering that it used to reside in the Master Emerald, until Eggbotnik shattered it to release him, which led to Angel Island falling into the ocean once again. Now Knuckles goes around gathering the pieces of the Master Emerald shards to bring it back together again. Amy's story is nothing much. It's just her helping this bird from being captured by one of Eggbotnik's robots. Sooner or later, they all make their way up to Eggbotnik's egg carrier, where Amy befriends one of Eggbotnik's E-Series robots, E-102 Gamma, who wants to go rogue against Eggbotnik and free all the little animals that are trapped inside the other E-Series robots. Which leads to a collision with Sonic and Tails as the egg carrier starts to lose altitude. Sonic tells Tails, God that felt weird to say, to take Amy off the egg carrier as he goes to finish things with Eggbotnik. He then meets up with Knuckles where they finish off Chaos, who is now powered up with 6 Chaos Emeralds. And Big the Cat is here to save his pet frog named Froggy. Okay. So after the entire egg carrier fiasco, Knuckles returns to Angel Island, putting it up in the clouds once again. And Sonic lands in the jungle, and he should have died upon impact, but who honestly gives a crap, as he goes to fight Eggbotnik for their last battle. Meanwhile, Tails drops Amy off in Station Square, where Eggbotnik fires a missile that Tails has to disarm. And Amy then finds the little bird's parents, one of which had been placed inside of Gamma, which he had to self-destruct in order to release it. Okay, now I praise this story a lot, but it's way easier to play through it and or watch it than having to, retell it to like an audience or whatnot. But believe me when I say, it's really freaking good. So, in the end, Chaos returns and steals all 7 Chaos Emeralds, which gives him his perfect form, and betrays Eggbotnik and then floods all of Station Square. And then Tikal the Echidna shows up to help in the ensuing chaos, and I promise that wasn't on purpose. Alright, now might be a good time to bring this up, but in each character's campaign, there will be a little glowing light that will guide you wherever the story pushes you. Tikal sealed herself inside the Master Emerald along with Chaos to appease him after the ancient Echidna tribe abused the Chow and the Chaos Emeralds, who Chaos was the guardian of, by the way. And when Eggbotnik shattered the Master Emerald, it released Tikal along with Chaos. Now, Perfect Chaos has absorbed all the negative energy from the Chaos Emeralds, so Sonic has to use the positive energy to transform into Super Sonic and defeat him. Now Chaos has calmed down, him and Tikal go back to reside inside the Master Emerald forever. Now, if I didn't go that into detail on each character's story, it's because I don't want this video to be as long as it is, and I tried to tie them all together in this one storyline, and I hope I did my best. As for each character's storyline, Sonic's is pretty basic with wanting to defeat Eggbotnik, and it's pretty enjoyable. You get a good characteristic of Sonic being as cocky and energetic and a straight-up a-hole towards Eggbotnik, and as a hero when he takes the time to save his friends and even help Big out for a little bit. Tails' story is my personal favorite because it's the same as Sonic's, but with the addition of Tails trying not to rely on Sonic as much as he does. That scene when Tails defeats Eggbotnik with nothing but his determination and sheer freaking will is amazing. Proving once again that he's not just some useless sidekick, that this dude is a genuine hero who can do just as much as Sonic can. Anyone who goes through Tails' story and still thinks he's just pathetic is a straight up uncultured swine. Knuckles is about finding the Master Emerald shards and finding out why exactly he has to guard the Master Emerald in the first place. He was just born on this island all alone with no one to guide him. The only thing he ever knew was that he had to guard this giant rock. And it's really cool to dive into the lore of the Sonic franchise that was only alluded to in Sonic 3K. Okay, I gotta go on a small tangent real quick. How the freak did Knuckles get tricked by Eggbotnik twice? Like, are you freaking kidding me? The first time, I get it. You've been on this island alone for God knows how long with barely any social interaction, and the first person you ever come in contact with says that some rando nigga is doing some evil crap. But here, when you know Eggbotnik is evil and tried to kill you multiple times, and your friends as well, you believe him when he says Sonic stole a piece of the Master Emerald Shard. There's being naive, and then there's just being plain retarded. Amy's is pretty basic and not really connected to the overall plot with Chaos. Just her trying to keep this bird away from Eggbotnik, which just so happens to have a Chaos Emerald on it, and Amy learning to be more independent, but that was a bit shoehorned literally at the tail end of her story. But overall, this doesn't really add much. Big is just looking for Froggy, who swallowed a bit of chaos and goes wandering off, and we have to go find him. That's literally it. He has nothing to do with the main story, and it begs the question of why he was even a part of this game in the first place. Gamma doesn't really have anything to do with the main plot either, but I can't help but to love his campaign. The story of a robot rebelling isn't different, but the presentation is just amazing. Like I said before, Gamma sees Eggbotnik doing these things and decides to free the animals inside the other robots. But when it gets to the climax with Gamma realizing that he can't complete his mission unless he literally kills himself to release the bird trapped inside of him. That is just heartbreaking and really dark for a kid's game, I might add. So, 4 out of the 6 stories are good, 1 is okay, and 1 is complete dog feces. I'd be a fool not to bring up the quality of the cutscenes and how they extremely did not hold up well. But it came out in '98. Of course it's not going to hold up to the standards that we have today. And it didn't distract me from the overall enjoyment I had while going through this game and each character's campaign. This story as well is just heartless. It feels like its name, like an adventure through and through, with tons of development from Tails, Amy, although for the lighter's case it doesn't stick to the other games, but you get my point. It offers a ton of world building and lore to the franchise that is fascinating to go through, and it's just so much fun.
It's so much fun.
So much fun.
So much fun.
So much fun.
The voice acting is pretty solid all around. This is Sonic & Co.'s first entry into the 3D world of gaming, as well as having voice actors to portray the character. In-game, that is. Ryan Drummond, not counting Ben Schwartz, is the best Sonic voice. He perfectly captures the youthful, fast-thinking, and cocky side of the character. While his acting isn't always good because, you know, he's just starting out, the voice still really fits for me.
A Chaos Emerald! Look, it's a giant talking egg! Whatever you say, Eggman! Or else what, you big loser? Well, that wasn't so hard. Oh no! Chaos? Oh no, isn't that the same monster I saw the other day?
Tails is voiced by Corey Bringus, and no offense to the kid, he's just not that good. And I get what they wanted to do with having a 12-year-old voice a 12-year-old boy, but someone that young doesn't have the acting range as the others in the cast, especially when he has to voice one of the main characters. As child actors go, he's not terrible, but I feel like we could have just done a little better, just a little bit better.
Hey Sonic! Long time no see, huh? That was a test run using a new prototype propulsion system. It's got a few bugs to iron out. Thanks, but you gotta check out my newest power supply. Ta-da! Yep, I just happened to find one of the 7 emeralds during one of my test flights.
Knuckles' voice is so friggin' good. In this game, Scott Dreyer gives him this really calm and chill voice that really suits the character better than the whole grizzled tough guy voice.
Have this feeling I've met these guys somewhere. This place reminds me of home. Wonder why?
That's it. I've had enough. Hand over the emerald.
When will you ever learn?
This time, you're finished. I'd better hurry.
Ah, Eggman.
That's a Chaos Emerald.
Jennifer Doolittle portrays Amy, and her voice really fits the character well. I really don't have a lot to say on her because she's not my particularly favorite Amy voice, but she's still really freaking good.
Sonic, wait up! Long time no see! What's wrong with you anyway? Listen, this birdie seems to be in trouble, so you need to be his bodyguard for a while. If you don't, we're just gonna tag along anyway.
Big is voiced by John St. John, and his acting is decent, but Big as a character is so annoying that I just can't even bother.
Good buddy, what's up with the tail? Hey, wait a minute! You swallowed my lucky charm! Come back here! What's wrong with you? Something's not right. We've always been friends. For years. Froggy! Wait up!
Gamma's voice is friggin' perfect, while sounding like a stock generic robot. When you go through his story, I don't know how to describe it. You just feel so much emotion by almost every line that he says.
You have feelings for something you know nothing about. Illogical. Go. Escape. It's dangerous here. Hurry. We'll be at the Mystic Ruins base soon. Get going. It is dangerous here. At your service, sir. Aye, aye, sir. Will comply.
The late Dean Bristow voices Eggbotnik, and he is friggin' perfect. He sells the goofiness of the character, and, if you have a character whose torso looks like a literal egg, you would expect him to be a little bit goofy, but he also has this imposing layer buried underneath the comedic overtones.
Chaos! These are for you, my friend! Ha! They're too late! Be gone, all of you! This is all I really need! Gamma! Get rid of these pests! Show them what you've got! And don't disappoint me, or else! Ha 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 ha! Oh yes! Attack Sonic, now! Now I have 6 of the Chaos Emeralds. There's only one more left to find. I even found Chaos's missing tail. I will. You're no match for Chaos, even though he's not perfected yet. Okay, Chaos, destroy them all immediately. No way. I can't believe this. You fool. Away before I make mincemeat out of you.
Okay, let's get into the actual game. I'm going to go in order of each character, so let's go ahead and start with Sonic. Right off the bat, we have something new on our hands, and that is the hub worlds. Now, at first, I hated these because I could never figure out where to go when I needed to do something or where I needed to search for what. But after a while, I kind of got used to them. This is the first time Sonic & Co. have really taken the time to go somewhere outside of an island, where Amy and Sonic clearly do reside in this giant city of Station Square. And this feels like a real open environment where you can go around almost anywhere. And this gives you a good opportunity of exploration to check out environments like hotels, theme parks, or even casinos. Okay, now might be a good time to bring this up. So remember in the last video when I brought up that I played Sonic Advance 1 and 2 before SA1, and how it sort of makes sense that, they'd meet Cream in the Advance series and then have SA1 and 2 go by and then, we're introduced to our heroes? Well, if you roam around Station Square once in a while, you'll see a familiar flying rabbit just soaring across the skies peacefully. That level of detail alone should show you that they actually put legitimate effort into this game. Okay, back to Sonic. He controls almost perfectly, like you'd expect Sonic to control like how he does in the classic games, but in a 3D environment. But whenever he goes around like narrow corridors or runways like Windy Valley, he gets a bit slippery to control, but that's only once in a while. So it never truly takes enjoyment away from me. Each character has this sort of gimmick, if that's the right word, it probably isn't, to each of their levels. Sonic has to reach the end goal and release the animals from the capsules just like in the classic days. He has his familiar abilities like the spin dash and whatnot, but this game gives each character their own upgrade ability. The upgrades that Sonic can get are the Lightspeed shoes, which allow him to do the Lightspeed dash. All you have to do is stand in front of a trail of rings, big or small, and charge up a spin dash until Sonic glows, and then you can let go and he'll dash through the rings at Lightspeed. The Ancient Light gives you the Lightspeed attack. It's like the Lightspeed dash, but, you only dash through enemies instead, and God is it satisfying to do. The level design of Sonic stages are a bit linear at times, but still fun to traverse through. My favorite is Red Mountain, for one reason I'll get into in a bit. Sonic has the most levels in this game, and that makes sense, but not one seems really boring at all. Even freaking Ice Cap Zone makes a return from Sonic 3K, even though it's not on Angel Island, but in this game, I digress. Tails doesn't have a lot to his gameplay since he shares some of the same levels that Sonic has, and he has a lesser amount of them, but his whole thing is, beating Sonic to the end goal. For Tails' upgrades, he has the Jet Ankle, which increases the time you can fly, but not by a lot if I'm being honest, and the Rhythm Badge gives Tails the ability to do the tail attack, where he spins like the Tasmanian Devil and whips enemies to death with his tails. There's not that much I have to say about Tails. Like, his gameplay is really good, but he doesn't have that many stages of originality to him to, give a whole analysis on. Knuckles has to be my favorite character to play as, because there is a crap ton of exploration because Knuckles is searching for the lost emerald shards. People tend not to like these, but I can't get enough of these treasure hunting stages. In this game, you'll see what I mean later. The way these work is that in each stage there are 3 shards that you have to collect. You can follow them by this radar that'll grow darker, and the beeping will grow louder and faster when you get near another shard. Most people were annoyed by this, but I didn't seem to mind it, and it never took me that long to find a shard in the first place. Now, I said a minute ago that Sonic Stage's Red Mountain was my favorite, not just because it's one of the most fun designed levels to traverse through in the game, but it also returns during Knuckles' campaign as well. It shows how in unison these stories really are, and it's really fun to explore this layout with a different playstyle like Knuckles. Knuckles' upgrades consist of the Shovel Claw, which gives you the ability to dig for item boxes, rings, etc. The Fighting Gloves gives you the Maximum Heat Knuckles attack. God, that's a mouthful. Which is Knuckles' version of the Lightspeed attack. Amy is a character that I don't mind playing as either. People complain about how slow she moves, but all you have to do is jump and do the hammer flip over and over, and boom, she takes off. It's that simple. The design and layout of her levels are a visual treat. Her upgrades are the Warrior Feather, which gives you this spinning hammer attack, and the Long Hammer, which extends your reach for the hammer swing. Now, touching on the hammer swing, it's complete dog trash. When you swing the hammer, you stop dead in your tracks, and it leaves you vulnerable to enemy attacks. That's the only problem I have with Amy's gameplay, and it can easily be fixed by just doing the hammer flip over and over and over again. Gamma is somehow faster than Sonic, and his gameplay is just about shooting till you reach the goal. That sounds repetitive on paper, but it's really addictive, honestly. It just feels so good to plow through Eggbotnik's robots and whatnot. His upgrades consist of Jet Booster, which is exactly what it sounds like, and Gun Upgrade, which lets you lock onto more enemies at once. And here we are, Big the friggin' Cat. Guys, I don't like him as a character or in a gameplay sense, because all you do is fish. That is literally it. You just fish. When in a Sonic game has anyone wanted to sit their fat arses down and freaking fish? Do I even need to go in depth with this one? Like, you're just fishing! I honestly don't care enough to talk about it because all you're doing is fishing! So on the gameplay spectrum, 4 are good, 1 is okay, and 1 is complete dog feces. What I recommend you do is that most likely you're going to play through and beat Sonic's story first. So after you do that, you might have all the other characters unlocked. So I suggest that after Sonic's story is done, you move on to Big Story next because it's the most tedious and boring. And then after that, you can play as Tails, who has some of Sonic's levels and will be a breath of fresh air after all the fishing you'll be doing. And then Amy's story because I think it's fun and you can go on ahead and get it out of the way. And then you can do either Knuckles and Gamma's story in whichever order you want. And you don't have to worry about the story details because you'll be filled in on whatever is going on by the time you complete all of these stories together. The boss fights in the adventure games are not always the best. They're just kind of meh most of the time, especially the character battles. Those are a friggin' joke.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
But I'd be lying if I said the final boss fight with Eggbotnik and Chaos did not give me a bit of trouble. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. The music is like any other Sonic game. Friggin' fantastic. I'm not going to go really in depth in this section because this video has gone on long enough as it is. So I'm just going to give you a bit of my favorite tracks. Each character has their own theme. Knuckles' theme, unknown from ME, is just straight up iconic.
tougher than the rest of them, the best of them, tougher than leather. You can call me Knuckles. Unlike Sonic, I don't chuckle. I'd rather flex my muscles.
Sonic's theme, It Doesn't Matter, is good, but I prefer the SA2 version just a bit more, and the same goes for Tails' theme, Believe in Myself. I never really cared for Amy or Big's theme, but Gamma's is so freaking relaxing. And do I even need to touch on the main theme of this game, Open Your Heart? I mean, just listen to this. I know I played the intro already in the beginning of this part, but just to do yourself a favor, I'm gonna play it again. In the end, SA1 is still an enjoyable ride. The graphics are dated, but it gives it a sense of character with the time period that it came out in. Sure, the cutscenes don't hold up at all, but it came out in '98, and you can't really hold it against it just for that. Besides, it doesn't take away the overall presentation and enjoyment that you'll get from the plot that it gives us. You could tell this was ambition and was a step in the right direction for the Sonic franchise. So, now that that's all through, let's hurry up and hop into Sonic Adventure 2. I promise I did not want to make that rhyme, it just happened. So, soon after Sega released the Dreamcast along with Sonic Adventure 1 with tons of deserved praise, a few years went by when Sega announced that the Dreamcast would be discontinued and they were out of the console business to become a third-party company, and fans were reasonably disappointed. They knew that the next Sonic game that would be released, that being Sonic Adventure 2, would be the last Sonic game on a Sega console, and they wanted to go all out. And did they go all out? Saying they went all out would be the understatement of the freaking millennium! I already said earlier that these were good games, but this one in particular is the cream of the freaking crop. Now, I typically hold these games in the same ballpark when it comes to overall enjoyment. Like, there are things I think SA1 did better, and there are things I think SA2 did better. Just replaying these games back to back has been a freaking joy of an experience. Now, instead of having multiple different characters with multiple different stories, we instead have 2 stories, the Hero and Dark story, that each have 3 characters to play as. Now, on the Hero side, we have Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and I guess Amy, even though she's not really playable. And on the Dark side, we have new characters, Shadow the Hedgehog, my personal favorite, Rouge the Bat, Every Furry's Wet Dream, and good old Dr. Eggbotnik. Yeah, you heard me correctly, Eggbotnik is playable in this game. Okay, let's get into the Hero story first. It begins with Sonic having been arrested by the military known as GUN, I'll just say gun because why the freak not, and he escapes out of a helicopter and he lands and goes through the city, trashing robots till he runs into the mysterious Shadow the Hedgehog, the ultimate life form who was able to blitz past Sonic using only one Chaos Emerald, and the one that the military somehow mistook for Sonic. Okay, look, I am a believer of the headcanon that a bunch of people saw Sonic change color when he went Super. Not only that, he had the same quill-shaped Shadow had. So, you can assume that if Sonic can glow yellow, who's to say that he can't turn black? But Darion, what about the chest first? Shh. Anyway, he leaves Sonic to get arrested. Switching over to Knuckles apprehending Rouge the Bat, who was a jewel thief and one of the most underrated Sonic characters, that is after the Master Emerald. Eggbotnik, seeing that Knuckles is distracted, tries to steal his family jewel, but in a last-ditch effort, Knuckles shatters the Master Emerald, which leads to him hunting them all around the planet. Next, we see Tails going over to rescue Sonic. Okay, I'm going to take a moment to go over how far Tails has come. Like, briefly. Tails, at the ending of his story in the last game, learns to become independent of Sonic, to be his own hero, and not have to rely on him anymore. Now, in this game, it continues when he hears that his best friend gets arrested. Does he sit back and hope that somehow Sonic can escape? No. He gets in his plane, flies over to Prison Island, and attempt to break him out. But he finds Amy, who's also there to try to break Sonic out of jail. But she gets cornered by Eggbotnik, which leads to Tails having to save her. What happened to you being independent? Tails enters the prison, but Amy beats him to Sonic's cell and lets him go, and imagine what Sonic has to tell people when he brings up that he got arrested and Amy freaking Rose had to break him out.
So, if you don't mind me asking, who had to break you out? Was it Tails?
No, it was not Tails. It was Amy.
Sonic then makes his way to the jungle where he runs into Shadow with this iconic interaction.
That blue hedgehog again, of all places.
I found you, Faker.
Faker? I think you're the fake hedgehog around here. You're comparing yourself to me? Huh. You're not even good enough to be
I'll
my
make you eat those words.
After their fight over the radio, Eggbotnik tells Shadow to hurry up and escape the island before it frickin' blows up. Sonic, Tails, Amy all escape, but you can't help but wonder how many gun agents died from that island being blown up. You cannot tell me that everyone got off of that island in time. We cut to Knuckles, who finds more emerald shards, but who gives a crap about that? We get a broadcast from Eggbotnik, who says he has a super weapon called the Eclipse Cannon. He fires it and blows up half of the freaking moon! And this is something that doesn't get brought up in later Sonic games, but who gives a crap? Eggbotnik blew up half of the freaking moon! Anyway, Tails goes through the city and briefly meets up with Knuckles, and then Tails races off to meet the president, who was getting a transmission from Eggbotnik, telling them to surrender in the new Eggman Empire, or he'll do what he did to the moon to the entire country. Sonic and Tails hear this because the president was a bit hot and decided to have the window open, and Tails traces the transmission to the space colony called Ark. They somehow deduce that Eggbotnik's secret base and the rocket ship is in Egypt, and Knuckles proves his treasure hunting skills by finding 3 keys that are needed to progress, and he fights a ghost. They get into the rocket ship, they bump into an asteroid which opens a hatch that Knuckles was keeping some emerald shards in, and they shoot out into space, prompting Knuckles to almost crash the shuttle in order to get them back. The cannon Eggbotnik used is powered by Chaos Emeralds, and Tails just so happens to have a fake one that has the same wavelengths and properties as a real emerald to throw off Eggbotnik and shut down his machine. Knuckles finds some more emerald shards and runs into Rouge. They fight, but she slips and almost falls into lava. Did she forget that she could fly? Anyway, Knuckles saves her and Rouge gives him the rest of the emerald shards, she collected. Eggbotnik kidnaps Amy and tells Sonic to give him the emerald. Sonic was going to give him the fake one, but Eggbotnik knew it was a fake and trapped Sonic in a capsule.
You thought you could trick me with that fake emerald, didn't you?
So, how did you know it wasn't the real one?
Tails! Because you just told me, Fox Boy.
Eggbotnik shoots Sonic out into space, leaving him to explode. Now Tails, in a moment of true savagery, he just saw his best friend, nay, practically his brother, the person who has practically raised him, took care of him, and has grown alongside him for almost years to come. He just saw that person get blown up in the middle of space. Now did Tails act like a little and cower in fear at the might Eggman's mightiness? No. That man climbed in his mech, readied his weapons, charged at Eggman, and ready for a battle to the death! I'm sorry, but anybody who has seen this scene right here and still has the audacity to call Tails trash, safe to say you have the right to get shot in the face. By me. Anyway, Tails beat Eggbotnik, and it turns out that Sonic saw Shadow do Chaos Control before. And since this fake emerald has the same wavelengths and properties as a real emerald, and not to mention Sonic has been exposed to Chaos energy over a long period of time, he used the fake emerald to use Chaos Control and teleport him out of the capsule before it explodes. I love the detail of Sonic being a little zapped of energy after doing Chaos Control like that for the first time. As he races off towards the cannon where he meets Shadow, they duke it out and Sonic makes it to the cannon and slams the fake Chaos Emerald in, shutting it down. And now with the dark story. It starts with Eggbotnik breaking into a gun facility where he awakens Shadow, a being created by Eggbotnik's grandfather, Gerald Robotnik. After Shadow demonstrates his powers to Eggbotnik, he tells him to gather as many Chaos Emeralds as he can and to meet him on the Space Colony Ark. Then we cut to the scene with Knuckles and Rouge, but this time showing that she was going after the pieces of the Master Emerald shards too. We cut to Eggbotnik at his secret base watching the news broadcast of Shadow stealing a Chaos Emerald, and the reporters and Gun mistake Shadow for Sonic, which is why he was arrested earlier in the beginning. Shadow then has a flashback to when Gun soldiers invaded the Space Colony Ark to shut down Gerald's experiments. But at the last minute, Gerald's granddaughter, Maria Robotnik, who was also a close friend to Shadow, pushed him into a capsule as he was shot out into space towards the planet, as she was being shot to death. Yeah. That happened. And for all of that, Shadow wants revenge on the human race because it was a, quote, promise that Maria wanted Shadow to keep before she died 50 years ago. We then get to that scene with Sonic and Shadow again as we cut to Rouge infiltrating Eggbotnik's base as him and Shadow both go into space, where Shadow explains that the super weapon aboard the Ark is called the Eclipse Cannon and is powered by Chaos Emeralds. Rouge gets caught sneaking around the Ark as she offers to help them by telling them that there are a few Chaos Emeralds on Prison Island. She does this because she is actually a government spy sent to get intel on Eggbotnik's plan. So, they go to Prison Island where Eggbotnik runs into Amy and Tails as Shadow lays explosives all over the island and Rouge retrieves the emeralds. Sonic and Shadow fight and Eggbotnik tells him to get off the island before it explodes. But first he has to save Rouge from a vault she was sealed inside of while she was getting the emeralds. Eggbotnik blows up half of the freaking moon and Shadow and Rouge track down the last emerald which Tails has before they lose him. The heroes infiltrate Eggbotnik's base where he unleashes the Egg Golem on Sonic & Co. They go into the Ark where Rouge and Knuckles fight, then Eggbotnik kidnaps Amy, shoots Sonic into space, and we cut to Shadow who has figured out she was a government spy all along. But she then asks him if he's even the original Shadow that was aboard the Ark almost 50 years ago. Shadow ignores this retort and goes up to face against Sonic. Sonic still wins, but after Tails and Eggbotnik fight, Eggbotnik sneaks away with the real emerald and puts it into the cannon, which starts a secret message from Gerald Robotnik before he was freaking executed. He exclaims that once the cannon is powered by all 7 of the Chaos Emeralds, the Ark will plummet down to the Earth, colliding with it to destroy all living life on the planet. Think of it as the meteor colliding with Earth when the dinosaurs were around. So, clearly not wanting that to happen, everyone except Shadow and Amy band together to stop the Ark from colliding with the Earth by reaching the cannon's core and shutting it down. But Okay, remember how earlier I put quotations around the word promise when talking about Shadow and Maria? Well, turns out the quote promise that Maria wanted Shadow to keep for all of these years was to make everyone on Earth happy and protect them and keep them safe and whatnot. Not to go on a killing spree and try to wipe out everyone on the planet. Turns out while Gerald was on Earth, he managed to alter Shadow's memories to carry out his act of revenge. Now, immediately realizing that he messed up, Shadow does a 180 to try to fix what the freak he did. Shadow realizes this because freaking Amy suggested that not everyone is bad and deserves to die. This is one of the reasons I like Shadow and Chaos from the last game as well. Sure, they may come off as antagonistic, but they fall under the type of villains that aren't necessarily evil, like Mr. Freeze or Cable from Deadpool 2. Chaos was filled with anger and resentment for almost eons about how the Echidnas mistreated the Chow as well as the Chaos Emeralds, until Sonic & Co. literally filled his heart with positivity, and now he can be at peace forever. Shadow sure did want revenge, but that was because he thought that his dying friend wanted him to do that. And when he realizes that he messed up, he completely does a 180 and tries to fix his mistake. Sonic and Knuckles make it to the bottom of the arc where there is a replication of the Master Emerald Shrine from SA1. An interesting piece of lore I want to discuss for a later video. But then the Bio Lizard shows up, which is the prototype of the ultimate life form that Gerald Robotnik had encapsulated many years ago. Shadow shows up to help with the Bio Lizard while Sonic and Knuckles set up the Chaos Emeralds. After Shadow defeats the Bio Lizard, it uses Chaos Control, which teleports and fuses itself to the front of the arc, making it fall down even faster to the planet. So, Sonic and Shadow both use the emeralds to go super and defeat the Bio Lizard, and this culminates into a final boss with the game's main theme in the background, Live and Learn. And it kicks ass.
The colony will enter the atmosphere in about 4 minutes.
Shadow, are you okay? Here I come, you creep! Lift you man on, you follow! Never find your way! Alright, this is working. Sonic, how are you doing? We've almost...
And during the battle, Shadow slowly loses energy, but he pushes on anyway. And with that, Sonic and Shadow defeat the Bio Lizard and use Chaos Control to put the arc back in its place with one last Chaos Control, but it proved too much for Shadow and he falls back to the Earth, dying in the process. Sonic goes aboard the arc, showing that the only thing Sonic could grab onto was one of Shadow's inhibitor rings. And this final scene is freaking amazing. I hope I can play the entire thing, but everything to the voice acting, the music, the character interactions is something to be seen.
Do you really think that the professor created him, Shadow, to carry out the revenge on all those who live here on Earth?
He was what he was, a brave and heroic hedgehog who gave his life to save this planet. Shadow the Hedgehog.
As a child, I looked up to my grandfather because of all the great things he accomplished in systems like him. What? Did he really mean to destroy us?
I don't know, but what I do know is we all did it together!
So what's next for you?
I'm gonna give up this line of work. Too much work for too little pay. Anyway, I've got something better than jewels that I'm thinking about right now.
What's the matter, Sonic?
Oh, it's nothing. Come on, let's go home. To the planet as cool and blue as me. Sayonara, Shadow the Hedgehog.
Now this story is dark, especially near the end. It has to be one of the bleakest kids games I've ever played. This game is one of the sole reasons why the whole "it's just for kids" argument is incredibly invalid. This game pulls no punches when it comes to what is told, shown, or even presented. The characters and their interactions are amazing. The pairs that are in this work so well, whether working together or fighting each other. Whether it be the heroes working together and genuinely being friends with one another, or the villains constantly bickering with each other on occasion. And the characterization is on point, my favorite being Sonic and Tails. I already talked about Tails earlier, but I only have to show one clip to show how well they treat Sonic in this game.
There's more to you than just looking like him. What are you, anyway?
What you see is what you get. Just a guy that loves adventure. I'm Sonic the Hedgehog.
This was the perfect story to follow up on after SA1. The characters and their journeys, as well as their dynamics and interactions, are at the forefront in this story, and I really appreciate it. Now, the story is fun, but on its own, it's not exactly perfect. I have to address a few negatives that didn't bring it down to me, but still need to be addressed. Now, if Rouge was working for Gun the entire time, why would they openly get in her way when she was trying to get the emeralds to Eggbotnik? And why would she let Eggbotnik blow up the entirety of Pleasant Island? If Gun had Shadow sealed away for almost 50 years, why did they mistake him for Sonic? Why is the music so loud in almost every cutscene? Oh, and speaking of cutscenes, they use motion capture for the character models, and it works pretty well, but the limb syncing is more focused on the Japanese voice acting instead of the regular English voice acting, which is why in some scenes the audio and lip syncing doesn't really mix that perfectly. Speaking of clever segues, the voice cast in this game is perfect all around. Just like in the last game, all of the returning voice actors from Sonic to Eggman are just perfect. And the new characters, Shadow and Rouge, are perfectly voiced by David Humphrey and Lonnie Minella. I wish we particularly got more of David Humphrey as the series went on, but unfortunately after Heroes, he was let go. Okay, now that we're done with the story, let's face the music. As you can probably already tell, the soundtrack is one of the best in the entire franchise. You already heard Live and Learn, but I didn't even give you any of the other tracks that this game is well known for.
Rolling around at the speed of sound. Got places to go, gotta follow my rainbow. Can't stick around, have to keep moving on. Guess what lies ahead? Only one way to find out.
This was the first Sonic game to have actual vocal themes within its levels. And not just that, Knuckles has various raps in his levels, with the most iconic being Pumpkin Hill. Rouge's levels are more jazz-like than anything else, and the character is so associated with jazz specifically to the point where it's almost memeable, but I'll get into that when I eventually review Sonic X. Shadow, like Sonic, both have rock-based music that fits with the high-speed action of their levels. The characters' themes are back for the new characters. I was never fond of the themes for Shadow and Rouge. Not that they're bad, I just could never get into them. But for Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, they all have revisions of their themes from SA1, and they are spectacular.
Oh, it doesn't matter now what happens. I will never give up the fight. Long as the voice inside tries me to run and fight. It doesn't matter who is wrong and who is right. No, 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 no. It doesn't matter. I wanna fly high, so I can reach the highest of all the heavens. Somebody will be waiting for me, so I got to fly higher.
Knuckles' theme is where I reach a bit of a middle ground because I cannot pick which one I like more over the other.
Storm of stones, I like to dig holes in search of gold, large pots of treasure. Feel much better. If I fight, Eggman, won't you ever clench my fist tight to come on better? I don't wanna hurt up my passion. I've served, been lonely all my life. Doesn't matter, here for the mission. Whoever wanna bring it, call me stubborn, but I'm still gonna live it. Do anything to get the pieces of the emerald.
Eggbotnik's theme is freaking amazing. This is the one that's mostly associated with the character. It's not my favorite theme for Eggbotnik in the games, but I cannot deny that it is amazing.
The story begins with who's gonna win, knowing the danger that lies within. Aboard the ark, a genius at heart, wanting to unlock the mysteries of life. I am the Eggman, that's what I am. I am the Eggman, I got the master plan. I am the Eggman, that's what I am. I am the Eggman, with the master plan.
My favorite usage of this theme is when Eggbotnik catches the heroes infiltrating his pyramid base.
That was pretty rough.
We did it! Let's go, Amy!
Yeah!
You little thieves. Did you really think
Come and get some, Eggman.
Sonic!
I'm plotting my speed.
Just leave it to me.
Okay, enough with the music. Let's get into the reason why people actually buy the game in the first place and head over to that gameplay. Okay, instead of hub worlds, each story just generally pushes you from place to place wherever you need to go. Now, I don't mind this, but I really do miss the hub worlds, because it felt like a real open world and environment that you could explore, like Station Square, the Mystic Ruins, the jungle, etc. Another thing that I found out a couple months ago is that you can actually interact with a ton of people in the hub worlds in SA1. I don't have that much to say about it because they bring it back in a later game that's done way better than I could have ever imagined, but we'll save that for later. Again, I don't mind it when we're just pushed from stage to stage or zone to zone or whatever, but I feel like hub worlds are really important in the Sonic game because it makes the world that you're trying to save feel more real. Even though there are 6 playable characters, they all play pretty similarly. As you would imagine, Sonic and Shadow are all about fast-paced action as well as cool spectacles. One problem I have with Sonic and Shadow's gameplay, even though they control a lot better than Sonic did back in SA1, the spin dash really gets held back because the button that you use also has another special move attached to it, and instead of being able to press the button automatically and you be able to charge the spin dash, you have to hold onto it for a hot couple of seconds before the spin dash actually charges, and it honestly gets really tedious. But other than that, they control perfectly. City Escape has to be one of the most legendary first levels in any video game. The music, the level design, and especially the truck. One funny story I have about that truck is because a while ago I was playing this game with my little cousin who's about 4, and I wanted him to play City Escape because it's the first level and it's basically the easiest. And when that truck popped up and smacked Sonic in the back of the head, I think it traumatized him so bad that he just dropped the controller and ran out of the room. For Tails and Eggman, they operate these mechs that gameplay-wise are more akin to Gamma from SA1. I already expressed how I liked his gameplay back in the first one, and they're just as fun here. 2 things I want to bring up though. 1, why is Tails always in this mech? I mean, gameplay-wise, the controls are fine, but I prefer Tails not piloting a giant-ass mech 24/7 for almost no reason whatsoever. And 2, this is one of the 2 Sonic games where Sonic and Eggbotnik don't directly fight one another, and that blew my mind when I replayed it for this review. Now, the treasure hunting stages. Well, now would be a good time for me to readdress something that I said back when talking about SA1. Remember when I brought up that I loved the treasure hunting stages specifically in that game? That's because the treasure hunting stages in Sonic Adventure 2 are straight poodoo. And that is for one key reason and one reason only. The radar. So in SA1, you had access to whichever emerald shard or item you were hunting for. If you couldn't find any in one area, you could just go to a new spot and search over there. But in this game, you have to search for one shard at a time in a specific order. So, this means you have to search for one shard at a time, and so this means you could be standing right next to a shard and not even know it because it's not the one that the game wants you to grab right at this moment. And the worst of these levels have to be Death Chamber and Meteor Herd for Knuckles, and with mad space for Rouge. Because these levels are so big and expansive that it can take you up to 20 to 30 minutes to complete. And this next level is the final one before the big boss with the Bio Lizard. And remember, these statements are my opinion and you can like something that I don't, and vice versa. With that being said, screw Cannon's Core. When I say I cannot stand this level, I mean it with a fiery passion. Not because it's boring, not by any means, because it's freaking hard! Now, in this level, you go through different sections as all the characters except for Shadow, as they all head down to the Cannon's Core, and once you complete each section, you'll switch to the next character, and each one has their own collective health bar and set of lives. So if you die as someone like Knuckles, and trust me, you very well might, you'll be sent all the way back 3 characters to play as Tails once again. Okay, aside from that, one thing I never brought up when I was talking about SA1 is the Chow Garden, a place where you can look after Chow, raise them, upgrade them, train them, etc. I never cared for SA1's Chow Garden, but I find SA2's Chow Garden really enjoyable. Now, I never took the time to raise a Chow for myself because I am an overweight 15-year-old with anger issues and suicidal tendencies, and I don't think I'm ready for that kind of commitment. The bosses, like in the first game, are a bit meh. They aren't really difficult except the Bio Lizard, which is fitting because it's the final boss, but it surprisingly didn't infuriate me like Cannon's Core did. The character upgrades are more varied in this one. For Sonic and Shadow, they both have the Light Dash ability, which you don't need to charge anymore. Instead, you can just push a button next to a trail of rings and you'll just zoom across them at light speed, and keeping up a lot of momentum. They also have the Somersault ability that you can use to go under things or break boxes or crates and whatnot. And it's the same button that is used to do the Spin Dash, which is where the whole not being able to use the Spin Dash that much comes into place. But in this game, Sonic does have an upgrade known as the Bounce Bracelet, which does exactly what it sounds like. Sonic can bounce just so he can get up to higher platforms. Knuckles upgrades give you this hilariously over-the-top look once you collect all of them. Rouge only has one noteworthy upgrade, being the scope where you can see hidden items and whatnot. Although you don't use it that much, and there are not really a lot of opportunities to use them. Tails and Ekbotnik's upgrades are about the same as Gamma's, being able to hover and lock onto multiple targets, with one exception being where you can fire missiles that can break through metal crates, but that's about it for that. The upgrades, like in the last game, are in a lot of hard-to-reach places and whatnot, and you'll really have to try in order to reach every single one of them so you can fully deck out your characters. These games are freaking amazing. Playing them back-to-back was an absolute joy of an experience, and this game in particular was an exceptional send-off for the Dreamcast. So, if you disagree or agree with anything I've said, let me know right down there in the comments below. Also, give you some likes, subscribe. This is Darren at GB Productions, and take care.